Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate the attendance today to get to know a little bit more information about FleetCommander. My name is John Earl. I'm one of our Senior Director of National Accounts here at Agile Fleet. I am accompanied by my counterpart, Mr. Ron Katz, who is also one of our Senior Directors of National Accounts here at Agile Fleet. Excited to kind of walk you through the platform today and explain to you a little bit more about the features and functionalities of FleetCommander. We do have a lot of content to cover. And we only have 30 minutes. So I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff fairly quickly. If you have questions that you'd like to have addressed, please throw those into the chat as we're going through things, and Ron and I will try to tackle those as they come in. And obviously, if you'd like to schedule some additional time with anyone from the Agile Fleet team, obviously feel free to reach out to us after our webinar today, and we'll be happy to have a more detailed, in-depth conversation with the specifics around what you're looking to solve for. So with that, I will go ahead and get kicked off here. I'm going to share my screen and get the presentation underway here. And I'm going to move this out of the way so we have no interruptions on the screen. All right, so the purpose of today's presentation is really just to walk through a little bit about Agile Fleet, who we are as an organization, some of the partners and clientele that we work with, and then kind of really just dig right deep into the solution overview as a whole. And as we progress through this, we'll kind of show you some different pieces of the puzzle of FleetCommander. But before getting going, just to introduce Agile Fleet, for those of you who may not be as familiar with our organization, we have been in business for 25 years now. We are headquartered in Chantilly, Virginia, so about 45 minutes just outside of Washington, D.C. And whether it's our implementation team, our development team, our support team, Ron, myself, we are entirely U.S. based. We span from the East Coast out to the West Coast, so you're getting entirely U.S. support as well as our hosting capabilities being housed in the U.S. as well. We have 5 core key values here at Agile Fleet, 2 that we always just like to call out from the get-go are approachability and responsiveness. And whether it's myself, a member of the implementation team, our support team, these are 2 characteristics that you should always see kind of coming through the communication. And likewise for us, seeing these from our partners makes for a better long-term business environment. We do have a 98% client retention rate, and we also have some co-op purchasing available. We are on GSA schedule. We are also partners with organizations like Sourcewell, NASPO, Value Point. So from a contracting standpoint, we like to have many different options to make things as easy as possible for you. Our client base really is predominantly within government and higher education. So about 55% of our client base is within the government realm. That could be federal, could be state, local, municipal, as well as higher education, making up about another third of our client base. And those clients do stretch pretty much the entirety of the United States. There are a couple pockets here and there where we do not have a presence, and we also operate in the English-speaking portion of Canada as well. And then just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea of some of the different organizations that we work with from what we would consider to be kind of the 3 main industry sectors for Agile Fleet, being government, higher education, and then our commercial partners. And this is just a sampling. If you'd like to have a little bit more information on some of the different organizations that may be more relatable to yours, obviously just let us know, and we're happy to provide case studies, white pages, and additional reference information. So hopping into FleetCommander as a whole, a couple things just to call out from the get-go. First and foremost, we are a web-based architecture. So as long as a user has connectivity to the internet, they will have access to FleetCommander. We do have a mobile optimized web page, so it is a responsive design to adapt to the different sizes of devices that may be connecting to the internet. We do support unlimited drivers and users as well as unlimited sites and locations, making our FleetCommander platform incredibly scalable. So whether you have 25 vehicles, 25,000 vehicles, you're adding more vehicles, reducing vehicles, the system and platform is really designed to scale and adapt to that volume on an as-needed basis. And we also support both a centralized or distributed and a combination of both from a management model of vehicle standpoint. So really trying to cater the platform to those who share predominantly or may have assigned vehicles with shared vehicles as well, or even departments that may just have vehicles that are out on assignment. Now, we did take some screenshots today to show you a little bit about the process and flow within FleetCommander. Just know that what you're seeing is highly configurable. So from a data standpoint, From a data collection standpoint, things can be changed during implementation to be catered to meet your specific needs. We also have 60 pre-configured reports that are built into the platform, so you can really pull anything and everything that you would need to from the system to then make those decisions moving forward about fleet management, as well as better understand user activity within the fleet. It's also incredibly easy to transition from legacy systems. We provide data import templates during our implementation process to make that as painless as possible, because we all know there, are some platforms out there that don't make it that simplistic. So uh, when I talk about FleetCommander, there's really two components to that. And the first component is what we call our core product engine. And the core product engine is going to consist of our driver and vehicle management, our hosting capabilities, analytics and reports, our dashboards, and our policy oversight. Now, we are a modular based system in that it's not an ERP system and we sell you everything that we have and you're going to pay for it whether you use it or not. And ultimately, what we've decided to do is to create a modular-based system that we can cater and build to your specific needs without the noise of all the additional features and functionalities that you will not need to take advantage of. And those modules include motor pool, key management, maintenance, fuel, risk management, GPS, and telematics. For the purpose of today's presentation, we are going to focus on just strictly motor pool and key management, but obviously, if there's interest in learning more about any of the additional modules that we have, we're more than happy to schedule some additional time to talk through those with you. So at the core of FleetCommander really are our users and drivers as well as our vehicles. And starting with our users, first and foremost, many organizations have hundreds and thousands, tens of thousands of users within their database. It's very easy to get those users uploaded onto FleetCommander through our data import templates that we can offer and provide during implementation. We're typically not going to store a ton of PII on users, if any, on the platform. However, the user profile can be as robust or as limited as you would like it to be. Typically, it's going to be some combination of a username, their first name, last name, email address. You can store things like department information, account billing for bill back purposes. So it can be as rich or as simplistic as you would like it to be. Now, with FleetCommander, there's a couple different ways that we can authorize signing in for a user on the platform. We can authenticate off of our servers and ensure that a user is authenticated. We can also utilize single sign-on through either SAML or OAuth to authenticate off of your services. On top of that, we have this unique concept of a profile expiration date on the platform. This is really a liability control mechanism for admins to be able to expire and deactivate a user on the platform at any point in time. We're not going to delete that user profile. We're just going to stop further access for that user. So we save all historical information, but if someone no longer is an authorized driver within the organization, there's a very quick and very easy way that you can expire that profile within FleetCommander. Now, we are a permission-based platform, and as a system admin, you have full control over how a user is able to access vehicles in terms of what vehicles they're able to access, and also when and how they're able to utilize those vehicles. Their permissions on the back end are controlled by our access groups and our usage types. The most simplistic and basic way to look at this is that access groups will determine who has access to what. These are completely configurable fields, and myself and Ron, as well as our implementation team and account management team, will work with you to cater these access groups and usage types to best match the policy that you would like to enforce internally. But this could be anything from limiting users to only certain types of vehicles, limiting specialized users to only the specialized equipment that they should be accessing, standard safety training. We've even had some partners that have used a bad driver access group to only allow them to access certain vehicles in the fleet that may not be the nicest and newest vehicles. Usage type is then going to determine how that user is able to utilize that vehicle. So should they be able to only use daily rentals or long-term rentals? Maybe it's a distance. So maybe you only want certain users to be able to travel a short distance amount of travel and make a reservation for that compared to a longer distance type of travel. So we'll work with you, and kind of the opportunities are endless to configure access groups and usage types to match your specific needs. You'll also see this information mirrored here momentarily on the vehicle profile, and we'll kind of close the loop on how the permissions and authorizations on FleetCommander work when we get there. We can also store certifications for users on the platform. So this could be anything from standard medical review, driver safety training, really anything that has an expiration date that you would want to monitor and keep a tab on. This is a reportable field within FleetCommander. It's stored on the user profile so they can access and view this at any point in time. They cannot make any changes to the expiration dates within their certifications. That is only made changeable by a system admin. So from a tracking standpoint, it's very easy for an admin to run a report to better understand when certifications are expiring. That information is presented to the user within their user profile at any point in time. This is also a feature where we can lock a user out from accessing FleetCommander if one of their certifications expires before it's been updated by a system admin. So another liability control that we can have in place to ensure only authorized and certified drivers are operating vehicles within the fleet. All right, shifting over to our vehicle profiles. First and foremost, no matter how many vehicles you have in your fleet, it's very easy to narrow down on any specific subset of vehicles that you would like to within your fleet, utilizing our set filters that we have to narrow down on a report for the specific vehicles that you're looking for. And whether that's, you want to see any green vehicle or any vehicle from 2022 or any vehicle that's a part of a specific access group or a usage type, it's very easy to narrow down on that. And then spit out a report that will show you all of the vehicles that match the criteria that you're looking for. We also provide data import templates for vehicles during implementation so that it's very easy to upload all of your vehicles into the system as well. In terms of the information on the vehicle profile, similar to the user profile, it can be as robust or as limited as you would like it to be. We're typically going to store some sort of conventional naming system for the vehicles. So it's very easy for admins and users to be able to identify the vehicles within the system, a VIN number, license plate, short description of the vehicle, and then first mileage in as well. And that first odometer reading is very key and crucial to a lot of the utilization and usage data and analytics that FleetCommander is really geared towards providing. So having that first odometer reading just gets us started off on the right foot in tracking and helping you to better understand that usage and utilization. So similar to the user profiles, vehicles can also be added to any singular or multiple access groups and usage types. So you have the ability to determine who should have access to a vehicle and then how those specific vehicles should be utilized. So we see this a lot with the EV adoption and EV push within organizations. So you have EVs, you probably don't want users to be able to take those out on multiple day or longer term rentals, trying to track down charging, having to deal with that from a customer support standpoint. So you may have EVs as strictly daily rentals and your combustion engine vehicles more as long-term rentals. So there's a couple different ways you can configure this. Again, we will work with you to ensure that it's set up correctly in a way to enforce the policy that you're looking to enforce. But again, the most simplistic and basic way to look at this is access groups is who is accessing this vehicle. Usage types is how they're able to access that vehicle. Now, when I go to make a reservation, FleetCommander will pair me with the access groups and usage types that are enabled within my profile, enabled by one of your system admins. And for all intents and purposes, if I'm not in an access group or a usage type, I don't even know that they exist within the fleet practice. So it's not like I'm trying to make a reservation against something I shouldn't have access to, because it's not even going to show up as an option for me when I go to reserve a vehicle. So a great way to kind of temper down some of the poor requests or off requests that you may get for vehicle usage. We also, as I mentioned, support unlimited sites and locations. So we obviously want to know where that vehicle is located so that when a user makes a reservation, they're reserving a vehicle at the physical location in which they are intending to make that reservation. So with FleetCommander, you can also control how reservations are approved, as well as how vehicles are assigned to reservations. So as an example, we have an auto-assign feature that will allow a user to select a specific type of vehicle. So maybe they need a sedan, but it will not allow them to select the specific sedan within the fleet that is tied to their reservation. We do this mostly to even out usage and utilization of fleet vehicles, and it stops those newer vehicles from kind of getting more wear and tear on them, while those older vehicles that are still capable vehicles within the fleet tend to sit until they're one of the last options for users to select. Auto assignment typically would be something along the lines of lowest mileage out first in, last out, to ensure that we're evening out usage of vehicles as much as possible. Maybe you have specialized equipment within the fleet. For those users, you can allow what we call manual assignment, which is they're able to actually physically select the specific vehicle within the fleet that they need to take out based on a specific purpose for that reservation. We can also incorporate approval hierarchies into the reservation chain. We can store supervisor information on the user profile. So when a user submits a reservation, it could go directly to a supervisor for approval, or if they're making a reservation, we can auto approve it based on the authorizations within their profile. So depending on how involved you want supervisors to be in that process, we can include them, or we can expedite the reservation approval process by approving that reservation automatically. This does not need to be an umbrella approach. You can have certain users and certain vehicles set up one way and other users and other vehicles set up another way. So it's really configurable in that aspect to ensure that we're getting the correct rules of use for your vehicles and your users during that implementation process. All right, so jumping in. So this gentleman looks very frustrated, and I'm sure some of you are as well. Ultimately, the goal of our motor pool module, which is our reservation module, is to take what tends to be a very manual process, which utilizes one, two, three, oftentimes several different software platforms whose really creation and intent is not behind vehicle management. And whether that's a Google Calendar or Microsoft Calendar or Excel spreadsheets to track reservations, and move it to a web-based architecture where it's a seamless operation for a user to both reserve and access a vehicle. Also, for an admin, it removes a lot of the manual inputs and manipulation of data necessary, as well as bubbles up valuable information about fleet capacity, usage, demand, utilization, so that you can make better informed decisions about fleet management moving forward. And our motor pool module, in conjunction with the key control module, which we'll also touch on here, allows for 24/7 autonomous access for users while still enforcing fleet policy and ensuring that your keys are secured properly. So I'm not going to read every bullet here. We'll send these slides out afterwards, but there's really three main pillars to a solid motor pool strategy. And ultimately, that's how do you effectively and efficiently schedule and coordinate use? How are you then effectively and efficiently dispatching those vehicles with minimal interruption to an employee's day that may need to manually hand off keys currently? And then on the back end, and probably most importantly, how are you reporting on what's actually happening within your fleet, reporting on that user interaction with your fleet vehicles to better understand your needs of your user base, as well as better understand what decisions you can make moving forward to increase the operational efficiency of your fleet management practices. So as we go through this, we'll kind of hit on those three main pillars and show you how FleetCommander solves for a lot of those varying pillars there. So first and foremost, when a user logs in, all they need to do is select make a reservation within their profile to start the reservation process. Now, we do have a permission that can be enabled on the platform that allows a user to make a reservation on behalf of another user. This can be enabled or disabled. If it was enabled, they would see this screen when they start the reservation process. If it was disabled, they would not see this screen and just hop right into the next one. Based on my user profile, it's then going to show me, based on the permissions that have been enabled, what usage types I have access to, as well as the sites that I can make reservations against. So if I were only allowed to make daily rentals, that would be the only option I would have from a usage type standpoint. Locations are also permissions within the system. So if I, for instance, only had access to the Chantilly site, that's the only site that I would see listed here. So once I select the usage type and select the site that I want to pick the vehicle up on, we can then collect as much or as little information as you would like to about that reservation. These fields could be mandatory, they can be left voluntary. We can have a combination of drop downs, checkboxes, free-form text. We're probably going to want to know when that user is going to pick that vehicle up, when they're going to return it, maybe number of occupants, purpose of the trip, destination, department. And these fields, again, can be made mandatory or voluntary based on system admin preference for information that's being collected. Now, once that user submits that request, it would either work through an approval hierarchy or be automatically approved, depending on how the approval chain is set up. And then once that reservation is approved, the user would receive an email that would look something similar to this. And it contains all pertinent information about that reservation, as well as a link to their online schedule, where that user can access and view any historical, any current, as well as any future reservations within their profile. It is a very flexible process. As we discussed, it is configurable during implementation. It's also not set in stone. So we realize that fleet policies and procedures and practices are going to change throughout time. So FleetCommander is really geared towards being able to adapt to those changes as necessary. So we can build it one way and we can change it the next year or the following year. So it's very easy to adapt the platform for your needs. Our motor pool dashboard gives system administrators full view into what's happening within their fleet at any point in time on any day. So you can view, for instance, when vehicles are set to depart, as well as the reservation information, asset details, and user details for those reservations. I can see when vehicles will be set to return on that day. Any vehicle that is late for departure or late for return will be highlighted in red, so it's easily identifiable to fleet staff. We can also set up features such as auto cancellations if a user hasn't picked up a vehicle within a certain amount of time. We can also set up email notifications if a user is late to return a vehicle. We can also incorporate supervisors into that email chain if a user is late to return a vehicle. I can also get a data snapshot in time of my capacity versus demand, as well as those reservations for the day, along with any and all motor pool activity, which could consist of anything from pending reservations in the system, pending users on the platform, cancel requests, change requests, what vehicles are in maintenance, what vehicles are in inspection, what vehicles are out, really giving you full insight into anything and everything that's happening within your fleet. Any of these fields with data are clickable, so you can drill down and view a report with all the pertinent information. We can also submit customer satisfaction surveys to users throughout their journey on FleetCommander to get and gather valuable feedback on staff, the vehicles, and the system as a whole. And ultimately, the goal of this, again, is to automate as much of the process as possible, utilizing technology as the automation tool to ensure that things are running as smoothly as possible. We're providing both this user and a system admin with the most simplistic, easy way to reserve vehicles with little to no interruption to other folks within the organization. Moving on to our key management module. So FleetCommander can be utilized in a staff location, having an individual that's checking vehicles out and in for the day. All intensive purposes, it's really built around incorporating our automated dispatch tools into the FleetCommander platform as well. So our key boxes that integrate on our software platform range in size from 8 to 96 keys. We can daisy chain additional key boxes together for increased capacity. Important call out here is that all individual keys are locked in place. The only key that will unlock for a user is the key that is designated for that user for that trip. They are on tamper-proof key rings. The key box itself has tamper alarms. This here you're seeing would be an example of our standard indoor key box. We also have outdoor options that have AC and heat components inside the key box and kiosk, which we'll talk about here momentarily and together. And we also have some options that have mail card slot features to allow you to store fuel cards, for instance, in with the vehicle keys. You can store up to 3 cards with each set of keys within these key boxes. So all of our key boxes will also come with an 18-inch touchscreen kiosk, which is how a user is going to interact with the key box itself. The key boxes will still have the LCD display panel, which is typically used just for system admin access to keys. So put yourselves in the shoes of a user. You made a reservation ahead of time. It's now time to grab the keys and go about my way. You come up to the kiosk and just select checkout vehicle. From there, you would log in with either your FleetCommander username and password, your single sign-on credentials, or we can integrate with existing RFID badges within the organization for an easy and expedited login process. From there, I would select the confirmation relevant to the time that I'm accessing the key box, confirm that the information that I entered is correct, and select checkout. From there, the key box door itself will unlock. The kiosk position will tell me, the kiosk will tell me the specific pin position of where that key is located. All the user needs to do is open the door. There are little green lights tied in with every pin position within the key box. That green light will illuminate. All that user needs to do is turn the key to the left, remove the key, close the door, and they're on their way. We also have some cool features that can be tied into this, like a time restraint. So if a user hasn't pulled the key within 60 seconds, for instance, we can relock that key back in place. It doesn't stop them from accessing the key. It just requires them to go back through the checkout process. So from there, the user's on their way. So the whole process really takes only about 30 seconds to access the keys. Again, it's done in a way that's enforcing your fleet policy and ensuring that that user is only taking the key that they're supposed to be taking for that trip. Now, on check-in, the process is very similar. They'd come right back up to the same kiosk and key box, select check-in vehicle, again, log in with their preferred login method, select that same confirmation number that I used to check out the vehicle, and then on the back end, we can configure a return sheet to collect as much or as little information as you would like to about that trip post-trip. So maybe you want to know things like where that vehicle is parked, how much fuel is in the vehicle, as well as what the mileage on the odometer is. We can capture all of this information. These fields can be made mandatory or left voluntary based on what you're looking to capture. We can also include commentary on maintenance needs, anything wrong, or anything that happened on that trip. When a user goes to select check-in, as you can see here in my example, we've got a bunch of 9s. I got a little lazy. I didn't really feel like reading the odometer. When it comes to manual data implementation, obviously there's only so much that we can do, but you can set certain thresholds on FleetCommander to throw up just a little caution to the user before they submit. So maybe it's over 250 miles, you want to just pop up or show a little pop-up that says, hey, you're entering a trip mileage of X. Is this correct? To help to cut down on that poor data input. On top of that, we can also integrate with GPS providers. Right now, it is Geotab and GPSI, and we should be finalizing an integration with Samsara here within the next month or two to automatically port over mileage information from the telematics device on the vehicle. It is grayed out, so a user cannot change that mileage information and would lead to the most effective and efficient way of tracking mileage for our utilization and usage statistic reporting on the back end. Once they select check-in, the return process is reversed from the checkout. Key box door unlocked. Kiosk tells them exactly what pin position to return the key. They enter it in horizontally, twist it vertically. As soon as it hits that vertical position, it relocks back in place. So there's no tricking the system into removing that key again. Very straightforward. We also have a feature that can be enabled on the platform called Grab and Go. And Grab and Go really allows more flexibility for users to access vehicles. Grab and Go is more or less a reservation made at the time of dispatch. So once I select Grab and Go and log in, the system will present me with options based on my user profile that I should have access to. All I need to do is select the type of vehicle that I want to take out, and then we can collect as much or as little information as you would like to for Grab and Go reservations as well. Maybe this mirrors your reservation made ahead of time. Maybe it's more short form, only collecting the most relevant and important information necessary because it is a last minute reservation. But we'll timestamp when they access so we know exactly when they're picking it up. Probably going to want to know when they're going to return the vehicle, any other pertinent information that you're looking for. All the user needs to do is select continue, confirm that the information they just entered is correct. We'll also tell them things like where the unit is parked, how much mileage is on the odometer, the fuel, and the license plate, so it's easily recognizable for the user when they're trying to access that vehicle. They select checkout and they're on their way. So again, the key control module is really geared towards how do we make things as simple and straightforward as possible for a user, while on the back end, really using it as a means to an end to collect the valuable data and information necessary for managers to make better informed decisions about their fleet operations moving forward. And we'll segue into our last little section here of this. And again, I appreciate you guys bearing with me as we kind of fly through all this information here. But as I mentioned, we have 60 pre-configured reports that are built into the platform. Probably the most valuable and underlying ROI to the platform is going to be our ability to help better understand whether there's opportunities for right sizing. So I may be able to run a report and say I just want to run it over a 30-day period to better understand capacity versus demand within my fleet. And in this example here, you'll see during this 30-day period, I use 36, maybe 37 vehicles out of the 45 that I have available. So starting to set off some alarm bells in my head that maybe I have too many vehicles. Well, that's great, but how do I know where to start looking at the utilization of my vehicles? Well, we can then run a report based on asset class to show you exactly where that utilization is between the different classes of vehicles within your fleet. So in this example here, you can see my 8-person passenger vans are only being used just under 30% of the time, while my SUVs are being used 100% of the time. So from a point of when I go to acquire new vehicles, this data is telling me I should probably focus on SUVs as they're the most commonly used asset within my fleet by my user base. But it's also starting to surface the opportunity for me to possibly offload some of these 8-person passenger vans to purchase new SUVs, or just to reduce the overall size of my fleet in general, cut down on things like carrying costs, which obviously can be very expensive for an organization, as well as recoup some of the initial acquisition costs. We can also take that a step further and show you individual vehicle by vehicle utilization to help you better understand if there are certain vehicles within the fleet that are being underutilized. and helping to surface the opportunity for you to possibly repurpose that vehicle, offload that vehicle, or at least start down the path of better understanding why that vehicle is being underutilized. Now, with our auto assignment model of assigning vehicles to reservations, ideally this bar graph is going to be as flat as possible. But ultimately, the goal of this is to ensure equal and even utilization of fleet assets and helping to bring that information to light when that is not happening. And in this example here, you can see my vehicle on the left, my DOT vehicle, is being used nearly 100% of the time. The one on the right is being used nearly 40% of the time. So again, starting to surface some of this valuable information that is oftentimes very hard to garner without the right mechanism in place to capture and collect that data. And then the very last thing I will leave you guys with is just what we consider to be the Agile Fleet way. And we take partnerships seriously. Our goal, again, is to, yes, to solve for short-term problems, but our goal is to create long-term partnerships. And ultimately, this process, we feel like, does a great job of reflecting that. We'll work with you to ensure there's a mutual fit. We can run through more specific demos, talk a little bit more in depth about some of the different integration capabilities that we have, customability, as well as configurations of the different data that we can collect to ensure it's the right fit. Implementation is typically 6 to 8 weeks. We have a full implementation team that helps walk through everything to ensure your team and staff are well equipped to handle FleetCommander in a production environment. We do also have full day live training with our implementation team for your system admins to ensure that you are in good hands. And then we certainly don't leave you high and dry after that. You're assigned a dedicated account manager that works with you strategically to make sure the platform is helping you to achieve your goals internally. And then we also have customer support available for any of the day-to-day technical needs that may come up. So that pretty much encompasses a very high-level overview and a very quick overview of the FleetCommander platform. Hopefully that was beneficial for everybody. Again, we're more than happy to help address certain questions that you guys have individually. Please feel free to reach out. I believe our marketing team will be sending these slides out to everyone who joined today. So thank you again very much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and you all have a great weekend.